All right, everyone. I enjoy nothing more than showing you how these people have our history twisted. Many who claim to be woke are instead comfortably asleep. But how could we have known? Without the work of David Talbot, his realization of what the cosmic mountain actually was, the origins of Mount Olympus, Mount Meru, and the biblical Mount of the Congregation, the Assembly of the Gods, and the so-called World Mountain. These things are at the root of the ancients' obsessions. No earthly mountain could be called the joy of the whole earth. And yet, Psalm 42 says, beautiful in its loftiness, the joy of the whole earth, like the heights of Mount Zaphon. Pause and go back to Isaiah 14, which is all about the cataclysmic collapse of the Saturnian alignment and the cosmic Mount Zaphon in the farthest reaches of the north, which is where these planets were. This alignment that many called Baal, and they recall the shaft of Baal. The catastrophe it caused was so horrific it was deemed evil. And some survivors began to push their narrative to get people to stop worshiping evil Baal and his sacred pole. But did you know that Baal once resided at the top of beautiful Mount Zaphon? That mountain of fire and light, that sacred pole, that holy column. The original Hebrew and Canaanite god was El, Saturn, and El had a consort, a wife, and her name was Asherah, aka Venus. And in some instances, Asherah is also the wife of Baal. But post-cataclysm, Exodus 34:13 states, break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. These people have been incessantly destroying our history. In one instance, King Josiah of Judah had an Asherah pole ground to powder and its dust spread over the graves of the dead. And yet, dissent continued within their own ranks. Multiple Jewish kings reverted to the older gods. They even admit that Solomon, the wisest king to ever have lived, also went back to worshiping the old gods. The biblical books of Kings and Chronicles tells a long story of one king chopping down Asherah poles and another building them back up. King Manasseh of Judah went so far as to install one in the Holy Temple. The Jewish Gideon was a military leader and a judge, and he famously destroyed his father's altar to Baal and Asherah pole. And he began a campaign of destruction of Baal altars and Asherah poles. The Catholics recognize him as a saint. But I tell you, he is no better than any other destroyer of truth. He was an enemy of the truth. And in recent years, we continue to see the destruction of our heritage, most notably in the Middle East, all in the name of Allah. And whether or not this recent destruction of long-standing statues and temples is a coordinated effort from those who know the truth but want it concealed, I can't say because I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because so many stand to lose great wealth and power if their false paradigms are exposed. Ultimately, their campaign of destruction is a failure. All we have to do is keep spreading the word. Have a good night, guys.